Thank you. And Mr. Sheldon Williams are not with us at this point, but we're hoping they will join us shortly. Okay. I hope
Dr. Darby, can we check to be sure the attendees are here? Are they in?
Karen?
Let me ask.
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Okay. And she's logged in.
Yes, it appears they are. Okay.
Yeah, stepped away.
Okay.
Okay. Did you get a chance to review the minutes of the September 22nd meeting? If so, may I have any comments regarding corrections or additions? If there are no corrections or additions, the minutes will stand approved as distributed for this meeting. Okay.
Excuse me, don't you want to take a formal motion?
Well, I just attended a parliamentary meeting and I was told if there are no changes to the meeting, you don't have to have a motion. So that is the reason why. And it's my understanding they're making some changes because of Zoom meetings. And I learned that as of 4 days ago. When I attended a workshop.
I'll have to turn in my subscription to National Committee of Parliamentarians. So.
Okay. So a member of the National Parliamentarian Group is the one who conducted the workshop.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. All right. For my comments, I want to share with you how pleased we are that Ms. Pittenger has been appointed by Governor Wolf to the Pennsylvania State Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Commission. And I'm very happy that he included her. This commission is charged to address systemic issues in law enforcement that have created inequities and fostered mistrust of the police across the Commonwealth. So I think Ms. Pittenger is an individual who is so knowledgeable and who has a lot that she can bring to that commission. So that was a wise choice for Governor Wolf. So Ms. Pittenger, congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Darby.
Okay. All right. We will follow with board business. Is there any unfinished? Well, I'm just going to announce it. We will follow later with board business. We will have the case reviews, and then we will have public comments. For my report, I have nothing else to share with the committee at this point because Ms. Pittenger is going to cover several of the issues that we needed updates on. So she has included it in her report. So Ms. Pittenger.
Thank you, Dr. Darby. And likewise, congratulations to you for being recognized as a UPMC community champion. Well deserved. You have navigated some rough waters with some of your community activities, and it's nice to see that that's been acknowledged.
Thank you very much.
And you really are. You're spread all over the community, and we're really very grateful to have you on board here.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a number of items to go through, but I would like to go directly to Chief Schubert and Assistant Chief Bickerstaff. You will recall that there was an incident that happened in the South Side 2 years ago at Kobe's Bar. It was controversial. There was a lot of video released, a lot of things that were observed on those videos that raised a lot of questions about the officer's conduct. We here at the board back in June of 2019, I believe it was, decided that it might be more appropriate for us to look at the policies and the procedures that guide the conduct of the officers when they're on different details, whether it's a uniform patrol or it's a plainclothes activity or detective activity, whichever it may be. And that particular incident gave rise to questions about what policies and procedures were in place and where were there gaps and perhaps policy deficiencies. Certainly the aftermath of that reflected rather poorly on the Bureau. Our conclusion was that to pursue individual charges of misconduct against the officers would be not the most effective thing for us to do, because it was obvious they did what they believed they were permitted to do. And so it led us back to, let's just look at the policies and the procedures. In discussion with Chief Schubert, and acknowledging that they have certainly studied that issue, in depth, I stay away from talking about the individual's officers because there's nothing we can do about that at this point, nor is it likely we could have back then. So Chief Schubert and Assistant Chief Bickerstaff are here tonight to explain precisely what they have learned and done and the remedial actions taken since that incident, so that it's unlikely another incident of that magnitude would occur again. Thank you, Chief Schubert and Chief Bickerstaff, for coming, and please go ahead.
Well, one, thanks for the invitation. Hello, everybody. Yeah, that was not a shining moment for the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police with everything that went through the media and everything else. And it's something we immediately looked at to see where our shortcomings were. And Assistant Chief Bickerstaff looked into that immediately and did the necessary changes to fill the gaps that we identified. And I ended up moving the commander out of the position that was there and putting another commander in. And obviously we took disciplinary action on the matter. Now, I will say that we are still in a lawsuit, so we have to be careful with what we say on some things, but I'm confident in the restructuring that was done through investigations branch with Assistant Chief Bickerstaff to ensure that we can prevent that from occurring in the future. Lavani, is there any specific thing you're looking for, Beth, in the board?
No, I think, Chief, what we concluded and really just deduced from what we knew was that there were some issues around the consumption of alcohol by officers when they were on duty. In I think it's Order 1710 at the time, there was no qualification for redirection to something else to give guidance if you were in a plainclothes or undercover situation, and we know that there was alcohol consumed. And that was in contradiction to the existing order at that time. There were issues around the use of force, and those issues could have spanned from the plainclothes officers themselves and what happened, as well as the responding uniforms that came in it towards the end of the incident. So I think we're looking for controls on the kind of activities that the officers engage in. Has there been anything addressed for the devolution of law enforcement power? Since it's really not a good idea for officers who have been consuming alcohol to exercise law enforcement powers, that could undermine their credibility, and probably maybe would have avoided the false reporting that occurred from that incident as well. But officer safety issues, what kind of backup and operational plans have been put in place now? Is there a pre and post test or pre and post assessment of the officers on that particular detail? Were they the original officers assigned to that detail? Is this a nuisance bar task force, or was this just maybe a tip that there was some drug activity going on and they went to check that out? Those go to the facts of the situation, but those are the things that led to the questions about the policies that were in place and what have we done so that those loose ends are tied up. Are they required to do an operational plan before they go out? Our supervisors, is there a check and a balance to supervisors when officers come back from such a detail? You know,
Yep.
back to the incident itself, no supervisor did attempt to determine if any of the officers were intoxicated or not. Just the checks and balances that would be in a systemic operational plan for plainclothes, narcotics, wherever it may involve blending in to appear as just a regular community member, but for law enforcement purposes.
Okay, yeah, I think the best way to do it is to have Assistant Chief Levani Bickerstaff go over the things that are in place now to ensure that we have oversight, permission, the ops plan for it, and everything else like that. That, you know, I'm comfortable that will prevent any shortcomings in the future. Levani?
Yeah, can you guys see me?
No, we can't.
Can't see, can hear you.
You can hear me? Well, I'm having problems. I can't get in. Beth, can you give me the meeting ID number? I'm going to try something a little bit different here. Do you have a meeting ID number?
I do.
Okay.
It's a webinar.
I can
Okay.
text it. I can put in the chat for her, Beth.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Is that good, Levani? Can you see the
Yeah.
chat?
I think I would rather you just say it to me. Is it a number, a numeric?
Yes.
Okay.
Let
me see here.
I'm getting into my email.
Unless we have some security built into the system, I would really be uncomfortable sharing that publicly, since we're broadcasting live on
Oh, okay.
Put it in the chat, or Beth, if you can text it to me, I'll give it to her.
Yeah, I think that would be a better, more secure
Okay.
way to handle it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, I think you can see me now, right?
Yeah, we can see you now. Good job.
Yes.
Hey.
Got it together. Okay, so thank you for having me this evening. And Beth, I can't believe you used all my terminology, blending in and all of those great things. And of course, the policy number, you knew exactly. We do have policies in place, Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, as it relates to drinking and illegal drugs, General Order 17-10, and of course, our standards of conduct. But what we're looking at now, as you mentioned, as we investigate nuisance bars based on tips or complaints from police or complaints from the community, sometimes it requires us to go in so that we can secure probable cause in order to advance that investigation. So that's where we were. That's where we are most of the time. Now, with COVID, we really have not been in those positions lately because a lot of the establishments are closed. But what we did moving forward after the incident at Copies is, of course, we reevaluated all of our strategic plans and all of the things that we had put in place. And we came up with some really good, I guess you could say, operational strategies to ensure that we don't have any challenges in the future. The one thing that we did is every detail that we have that involves bar investigations, we have to put together an operational plan, and that operational plan has to be reviewed and approved by a supervisor. The other things that we do as far as when we actually put the officers in place, we have a supervisor that's there at the scene or is part of the backup team. We also have an arrest team to help out if we do run into something. We have developed different ways that the detectives can appear to be drinking, but are not drinking. like say for instance, they can hold on to their drink for at least as long as they can without looking suspicious, or they can take it and dilute it if that's possible. But the one thing that we came up with is that the officers who are working in that undercover capacity in the bar is not allowed to have more than 2 alcoholic beverages in a 4-hour period. They're not allowed to drive a vehicle after the incident is over. And of course, they have to be aware of their own body as it relates to their chemistry, as it relates to drinking. And they're not allowed, unless it's an emergency or their safety is in jeopardy, to participate in any arrest procedures. But they should have someone with them that is not drinking. So I'm not sure if I answered all your questions. I have a whole lot of different stopgaps that we put in place, but basically we put together some procedures and policies that will not allow an officer to be in a position where they don't have the effective support to support them if they have to go in and be involved in an undercover capacity when it comes to being in a bar.
Okay, is it okay to take questions, Dr. Bickerstaff? I mean, Chief
yeah,
Bickerstaff,
doctor.
I've advanced you.
Now, of course, I can't speak on the specific incident, but
Sure.
I can address questions.
Okay, Ms. McClellan?
Yes, my question is, can you see the Q&A on here that we have someone that has asked a question?
Yeah, I thought you had a question. I can see it, but I thought you had a question.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, I'm going to take it from the board first, and then we'll get to their questions. Okay, Thomas?
Excuse me, Dr. Gershio has joined us. If you could let her in, please, Stephanie. Excuse me, Mr. Waters.
Sure.
I did let her in. I don't know if she has her camera on.
I see her now.
I thought I saw Mr. Green enter too. Is he in?
Yes, he is.
I am.
Okay, thank you very much. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, Lavani. I didn't capture your last name, but thank you very much.
Lavani's fine.
Thank you so much for what you shared. I wanted to ask you a clarification, however.
Okay.
You said that these new policies and procedures were put in place, and I think this is a quote, so that we are not challenged in the future. Could you tell me more about what you mean by not challenged?
I don't recall saying that, but if you got that as a quote, then that's what it is. And what I mean primarily is we put a lot of stopgaps in place so that we will not have any issues with any detectives placed in a position where they are that they actually consume more alcohol than is allowed by our policy in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the clarification.
I had a follow-up to that. You said no more than 2 drinks in 2 hours.
No, in 4 hours.
In 4 hours? Okay,
Yes.
in 4 hours. Okay.
4 hours.
Now, why 2 drinks? And I'm saying why 2 drinks because is it possible that people will notice if they are not drinking at all?
When you're in some of these bars, I can just say like some of the corner bars, I don't want to actually name any specific bar, but when you're in a bar where you feel that there is illegal activity going on, a lot of folks know who comes to those bars on a regular basis. And if you come in and you're not drinking, or at least it looks like you're drinking, then you will be looked at as someone suspicious, probably a police officer.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does any other board, is there another board member that has a question or a comment? If not, we will go to the question in the chat. And that question is, why were the undercover officers in that bar initially?
They were
What-
responding to, oh, I'm sorry.
It was said that it was a random stop for the bikers. So why did the intoxicated officers target the bikers?
Okay, so that's the question I don't think that I can answer.
Okay,
Because of the litigation that's pending. So
sure.
I would probably have to pass on that question,
Okay,
because that's speaking specifically to that incident.
okay. There's a comment, have any policies come out of this related to destroying evidence?
Okay, destroying evidence?
That's-
I'm not sure exactly where the comment is coming as it relates to drinking in a bar, or new policies as it relates to drinking in a bar.
I think if I may, I think that's related to the confiscation of the bar's surveillance, their inside camera equipment a couple
Okay.
days after the incident. And that's probably a different issue altogether. And that may be more specifically an individual or perhaps a unit's accountability problem.
I'll be honest, I would love to answer that one because it's very explainable what happened, but that is a part of the lawsuit.
Yeah, I kind of suspected that, but maybe when that's concluded or the court records will reflect and we'll have some answers at that point on that issue. How about the pre and the post assessment for alcohol level, Chief? I don't know. From what we've looked at across the board across the country for best practice stuff, some departments do require that there be a baseline before they go out on the detail.
Okay, well, primarily none of the officers should have been drinking before they go on the detail.
Right.
And our baseline, of course, is under 0.08, which was the legal limit. So they are not to go past that. But they're monitored as far as giving them a test. We don't give them a test when they come back in. But like I said, we have not had based on the COVID-19, we have not had any bar details where we have to go in and actually be blending in. And as far as a bar detail since this incident happened because of all the health concerns. Now we have had to close down bars that are in violation, but we have not had to work in an undercover capacity. LCE has helped us out as it relates to that.
And along those lines, if there's an arrest to be made, which goes to what I suggested earlier about the devolution of law enforcement power.
Right.
Do those officers who are assigned the detail, are there circumstances within the policy under which they would not be the arresting officers and that someone else would effect an arrest?
Primarily, unless something emergency goes off or occurs in that bar, they're there to get probable cause to make an arrest. They're usually not there to make an arrest. Now, if something does occur, there's a backup team that's in the policy now that will come in and make those arrests. But generally, when they're in there blending in, the whole purpose of them being there is to gain evidence and probable cause to come back and secure arrest warrants or search warrants for the establishment.
That's good. That's good clarification. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chief.
Mr. Waters has a question.
Yes, I wonder why you do not test the officers before they go in so you know that they haven't been drinking and you have a baseline of 0 before the operation begins. And then you test them again at the end of the operation so that you have numbers that are very clear about what happened with that officer at the beginning and at the end, so that you have greater evidence to support the work of the officers if it is ever questioned. That
Okay,
seems
so-
really basic.
Okay, so here's the thing. Mr. Waters, is that your name?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Waters, okay. Like I said, we have not had to do any bar details since COVID-19. So we haven't, since copies, we have not done anything because of the health concerns. But we are also have training in place that we were going to start with the LCE, where they would come in and talk to us about the baseline training the baseline testing that you're speaking of. But we have not moved to that yet. That is something that we will consider. I'm not saying that we'll do it, but we will consider it, because that is a great point. We were to get some real advanced training, but because of the COVID-19, we have not moved in that direction yet. But before we start the bar details, as far as probable cause, we probably will be looking at that. But that is something that we looked at, but we did not move forward with it.
And kind of
We have not been.
just to go towards the baseline in the beginning. First of all, no member of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police is permitted to come to work after drinking alcohol or anything else with that. They have a roll call. So the supervisors are able to see the person before they go out on the street or investigations or whatnot. I think the biggest thing would probably be the baseline at the end, if we wanted to do that. But as the assistant chief said, we're working with LCE on that one.
Okay.
There was another comment or a suggestion here that goes to the issue related to what happened and the credibility of those particular officers that were involved, and that their reputation was besmirched such that they're not, or for a time being, were not permitted to testify in court because of the false reports, I suppose, that came after that incident. As a generality, when that happens, when the district attorney says, I don't believe your officers are credible and they can't testify, how do you deal with that? I mean, this is not anything I would expected you to think about answering tonight, but it is how do you deal with that when the officers are, and we've had a few over the years where they were honesty problems, and so they weren't permitted to testify, which impacts the whole process. How do you deal with that?
I guess the short answer to that is, I mean, we do GIGLO requests on the federal side, and there have been occasions where the district attorney has said that he wouldn't allow officers to testify. And in the past, if there's nothing we can do to terminate them, sometimes the DA gives a level of almost, they have to regain their trust on for criminal court. We have to put them in positions where they're not making arrests. I'm thinking back of one detective right now that we had to put that person in a position where they couldn't make an arrest, or if they are out in the field, they have to always be with another police officer in the event an arrest is made.
Okay. Mr. Waters?
Yes, I have a question for the Chief Schubert. First of all, I want to thank you very much for the two of you coming and making a presentation to us today. If I have any regret about it, it was that we weren't able to more widely publicize this so that more residents who might be interested in hearing what you have to say would have been aware ahead of time. But I'm glad we're videotaping and we're going to be on YouTube so that people will be able to see it. And I really appreciate your comments. You started by saying that, no, it was not a very good look for the Pittsburgh police. And aside from the details of the case, which I understand why you cannot discuss, and I support your efforts at doing what you need to do for that, I think you would agree that this episode happening has damaged the trust in the police for many members in the community. And I'm wondering what efforts you can make outside the details of the case itself, but what efforts can you make to help improve and rebuild the trust with the community that this experience may have tarnished and damaged?
So I would say that one, making changes when we see that there are shortfalls, being accountable for our actions, working with the community through being as transparent as possible, engaging the community. We do a lot of community engagement at all 6 of our zones. Investigations, Branch Lavani can talk about a lot of the things that they do in the community, but we value the partnership we have with the community, and obviously we always want to do everything we can that's right and just. And if there's ever times where incidents occur that it lessens that trust with the community, then we have to work harder to ensure that we maintain that trust, because everything we do is the community and the police. It's not one or the other. So it's something I take very seriously, is maintaining that level of trust and just trying to be as transparent as I can. And we're not perfect. We do make mistakes. And when we make those mistakes, looking at the best way to fix it.
Okay. We have a comment in the chat from one of our attendees tonight. How do you keep the public safe from cops with a history of excessive force who are not let go but are put in other places?
That's kind of broad, but I would just say that accountability, supervision.
Okay. So are we to conclude that by putting them in other places, there is more supervision, a monitoring of the behavior?
As I said, I think it's a very vague question, because you're saying not a specific case that
Right.
with excessive force, that is sustained. I'm taking it that's what they mean, sustained use of force incidents. We take disciplinary action against officers, and they do fall under a contract with the Fraternal Order of Police. So they have some level of rights as well through the arbitration process. But it's holding people accountable. If we have body-worn cameras that everybody's required to wear, that acts as a level of transparency. I was just going through some videos today on a disciplinary case to review, and I think that's probably one of the best things we did was going to the body-worn camera. We have the in-car camera system and a body-worn camera, and anytime there's incidents, we also look for video that may be in the surrounding area as well. So I think it comes down to accountability, looking at each incident that occurs. Anytime that anyone uses a level of force, they have to do a report to justify and place down what force they used. And it's reviewed by their immediate supervisors, their commanders, and goes up, and then a copy goes to our academy use of force instructor.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions from our board?
Well, I would just say that I probably have a gazillion questions, but I also understand the litigation, and I think it is challenging for us in this setting to try to get into it. It's why I am still a proponent of having a public hearing at some point. I appreciate the chief and his staff coming and sharing with us the information that they have, which is what I think they were asked to share with us. So I don't think there's a lack of questions, but I question if this part of this meeting is the right time to try to go into it. And I'm still a proponent of having a public hearing.
I guess there was one other question there. Do plain
Yeah.
clothes officers have to wear cameras?
So a lot of the detectives, everybody's issued one. They have to wear them when they're doing search warrants, arrest warrants, and things like that. Obviously, with the clothing they wear and the assignment they do, they can't wear that on a daily basis. But we do require, if they go out to a search warrant, arrest warrant, or anything like that, that they have it on their outer vest.
Okay. I don't see anything else in chat or any questions. Does anyone else have any closing comments for the chief? Okay, Ms. McClellan.
I just want to say that I appreciate the efforts that are going forth by the department as far as bringing accountability to officers that are typically running under the radar. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So on behalf of the board, chief, and I want to get, yeah, but I'm trying to say it correctly. Bigger staff, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. I feel that with your willingness to come here, we have at least opened the door to the concerns we've had now for over a year, and that's a good sign. It may be that we will want to continue with some other kinds of comments and questions because there's been a lot of conversation about the Copies situation. But for tonight, I think we've covered a lot, and I really appreciate all that you shared with us. So I hope we can keep the door open to chat with you again in the future. We really want to represent the concerns of our citizens, and there has been no shortage at all of concern around that whole incident. But I think the information you've shared today brings us closer to understanding that you have addressed it and you have made some changes so that that situation won't happen again. So we really appreciate that.
I think it's important to recognize, and it's something we always look at. We're always evolving.
Okay.
Law enforcement in general, we're always evolving. We're always looking at best practices, and as we said earlier, if we find gaps in what we do, we look to improve it. And sometimes incidents happen, and I'm not saying this one, but other things happen, and we learn from it, and we adapt. We switch to we're switching to the body worn camera 3 from Axon. We had the 2, and the 3. It's going to take a while to get everybody trained and out, but it provides even more transparency and visibility with the camera. Even when you take your taser out, you take your firearm out, it'll automatically come on. So if an officer's in a critical incident, they don't have to think about trying to turn it on. It will go on itself. So there's a lot of things to even audit to ensure officers are using it based on our policy. So there's a lot of good things, but it's an investment by the city of Pittsburgh to ensure we have the tools to do that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Ms. Penninger, do you have any final comments?
No, I thank the Chief Schubert and Assistant Chief Bickerstaff for coming tonight. And I share your thought there, Dr. Darby, that maybe we could have further discussions as time goes on so that we understand, because it is our role to be looking out from the middle to protect the interests of the community at large, as well as professional law enforcement. And where we can support that endeavor, I hope you both know that we do. And where we can be of assistance, you let us know. We're here for you as much as we are here for the community at large. And so I deeply appreciate you coming tonight. And And also in acknowledging today's anniversary, thank you for your service. And
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. This has not been an easy day for the city of Pittsburgh. So we thank you for taking your time to be with us tonight. Okay. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
All righty. All
Have a
right.
good
Yeah.
evening.
You too. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Ms. Pittenger, you can complete your report.
Thank you. I think you saw what I sent out for the Pittsburgh Point of View, our online journal.
Yes.
That is in the hands of our webmaster right now, being formatted for publishing on the website, including invitations for individuals to submit original writings that maybe have ideas and that might be helpful and good for the community. And we'll see. I'll let you know as soon as it's actually posted. There were some challenges to that. Today we met with a delegation from Amnesty International, Ms. Dorman and I think there were 5 from the chapter. Stephanie, is that right? 5 of us, or 5 of them and the 2 of us? They wanted to review their most recent report related to policing and human rights. There are concerns about use of less lethal force and some of the force that was used over the summer. There was in particular some discussion about what happened here in the city May 30th through June 1st. And as you know, we are attempting to complete a report on that. I'll report on that after this. We agreed with Amnesty that we would try to meet more frequently, whatever we could do to support their effort that is consistent with your mission. We certainly stand ready to support and participate in whatever would be helpful. The task force on police reform, they issued their report last week. I sent a link out to everyone. I do have a PDF copy if what was online was difficult to read. We have another copy, so you can let us know. We can forward it to you. I have not gone through it, to the point where I feel confident that I have the major points or understand everything they were looking for. One of the issues that they were looking for or were curious and interested in was the accessibility of data. They were encouraging and development of systems that would provide real-time data to the department as well as the public. And there are some departments in the country that do have real-time data dashboards on their websites, and you can see a traffic stop happening at the moment, not necessarily visibly see it, but you can see the data related to it, the location, the units, number of people involved, that sort of thing. We do not have that. The beginnings of that were started here in Pittsburgh back in around 2010, 2011. You'll recall that there was a resolution from City Council that established the minimum standards for the annual police service report. In that report, we were requiring certain data points, which included traffic stops, the demographics related to it, who was searched, if anyone was searched, what was confiscated, if anything was confiscated. That kind of data is compiled in the annual service report, but it was suggested that might be difficult, a tough task to maintain, gathering the information from the officers' run sheets and so on. So we had, in a coalition community with our community friends, we had sought the creation of an electronic run sheet, which would automatically feed and fill data requirements directly from the patrol unit. That was supposed to have been starting to collect information in 2013 so that it would inform the 2014 report for 2013. We were told it was going to cost another $125,000, so council found that $125,000 and allocated it. It was paid to a company named B3. My understanding is that to this day, that electronic run sheet is not in use, that several other products that were supposed to have been provided and produced under an agreement with that company have not been produced. And that brings us to a recent settlement with a former police officer, Sarath Chatterjee. You may have seen that in the news. There was a $250,000 settlement with him. Sarath Chatterjee was assigned by former Chief McClay to analyze the data sources and how can we, the city of Pittsburgh, interface with the county 911 dispatch system so that those data points and all that data would be automatically fed back and done and with no intermediaries. So Chatterjee did evaluate all of that. He made recommendations for a program that was off the shelf. He found a couple of them that would just interface with the 911 CAD system made for that purpose. And that would give all the data back to the Bureau of Police that they needed for, data analysis and data management and all the things you do with data. But that was not pursued. There was on the table this massive software development program by this private company for the city of Pittsburgh. Now, problem with that is it's a proprietary system, which means only they can sustain it and modify it and maintain it. And so it becomes it becomes its own little thing. Chatterjee, when he exposed all of this, it put him in a bad situation in the Bureau with some people in the Bureau. He then tested for the sergeant's promotion exam. He was number 1 on the list. He was passed over. McClay left. Things got more and more tense. So Chatterjee left, but then subsequently filed a civil lawsuit against the city and the Bureau related to the damages for not being promoted and the substantive retaliation because of his exposure of the questions around the B3 contract with the city of Pittsburgh. And when that was brought out, the mayor said that, well, yeah, he was aware there were some issues with that, but it was going to be allowed to naturally conclude itself, the contract with that company. That original agreement did expire. And then shortly thereafter, a couple $100,000 was allocated by council to that company to continue to develop something that was in the works. So it's all kind of like this, but it's all related. And so at any rate, the task force report made me think about all of that again, and how ironic it is that we're still looking for data. And this is now 2020. The solutions have not been put in place. They also, in that report, did adopt your recommendations related to officer wellness and some training academy suggestions that we made in 2002. The densist group, that resolution, as you know, we went through everything they wanted us to go through to bring it back to say to council, we took your advice. We did put it out for bid, and the bids came back, the proposals were returned, and here we are again, asking you to authorize a contract between the CPRB and the densist group. That resolution was introduced in council today. I believe it will be heard by the subcommittees. I am not aware of any adjustment to that. There is a procedure they can use to bring it back tomorrow for discussion, but I'm not aware of that having happened. That means it will be on the table on November 4th, next Wednesday. And then if it's approved at the committee level, it will be presented for final disposition to council the following Tuesday. any discussion about it with council will be a week from tomorrow. Penn State, they formed a study group in Penn State for civilian oversight of police. I think I mentioned this before. There was an incident a couple of years ago where State College police shot and killed a young man who was actually in a mental health crisis. And that caused a lot of discussion about civilian oversight. And of course, this past summer, where the governor encouraged the development oversight entities and communities and all of that. So State College created this study group. Former Chief Tom King in State College had reached out to us. I met with him a couple times and I had the pleasure of meeting with their study group last Thursday. Great bunch of people, great questions, real interest, and they're really going about it in a very interesting, deliberative way. But Mr. Ward, I think I sent to you a letter a briefing that their labor lawyer had given to this study group, where we were referenced throughout it. They failed to mention about the subpoena, and they failed to mention Commonwealth Court saying but that they can have that language in their contract, but it doesn't apply to the board. Subpoena issue.
That's correct.
Yeah, the subpoena issue was not mentioned in there, so I had an opportunity to explain that part of us. They found that intriguing and interesting, and I was glad I could give them that kind of something hopeful, and because they thought we were just completely out of the. I don't know what they thought we were doing. They kind of thought we couldn't do anything. So it was a good experience talking with people outside. It makes you think about your own details here at home. And that was one of them. And I understand related to the referendum, the FOP has not been overtly oppositional to it, but they seem to be pretty certain that if this is adopted, that we will be engaged in some challenges related to the provisions of officer participation. So other than that, I haven't heard too much opposing the referendum. And, State College, they want to talk about that referendum. And in light of the briefing that their labor lawyer had provided, that came up. So we'll see. I did visit with the Citizen Police Academy Wednesday night this week. I shared with them some of the background on the B3 that I just shared with you. Because it's important people know what backstories are to understand how we got to where we are. History teaches us about the future, after all. The referendum, now the referendum proper as a topic, you've seen some of the material that's been put out. Almost every city council person has done their own video promoting the referendum, promoting an affirmative vote. All are listed on the city channel. I thought that was encouraging and a positive for us. And the last thing I have on my list, I can't read it, so I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. But that's it. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I think Mr. Waters does.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm asking specifically about the protest that was outside of the East Liberty Target. I believe our own investigators were either present or began to do some investigation of that. If that is the case, could we receive a draft, early preliminary summary of our own investigators' reports about that specific part of the investigation?
Sure. This The Target one.
Yes.
I believe that is included in the general protest file, but I can ask the investigator to extract that which is specific to the East Liberty or to the Target protest and provide that to you.
Well, is the protest file something we have access to?
Sure, you have access to it.
Okay, then outside of this meeting, I'd like to learn how I have access to it, because I'm not clear. So thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Madam Chair, may I ask Investigator Elwood something?
Yes.
David?
I'm coming on now. I'm trying to get the camera to work, but I can answer your question now. I just don't have the camera up.
Did you hear Mr. Waters' question?
I certainly did. Do you want me to give a report now or?
No, just a reassurance, and if it's easily enough extracted to provide a summary just for that incident.
I will write a summary and I will put it in there directly as a file. It is in there, but I think that it would be most productive to put a specific summary of that day as I saw it.
You were there, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that the incident where you had to call 911?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Our investigator was put in a dangerous situation at that particular protest.
Great. Thank you.
Look-
I'll be in
Yeah.
touch about more. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Elwood, does that include the shaded side and the water bottle incident as well in that report?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, all right. Well, I would like to see that one too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that is the master report related to why we're trying to bring Densis in.
Yes.
We've taken all of those incidents and protests and people we've heard from and kept it in one master file. So anything you want to know about any particular protest, it's going to be in there.
Okay.
It does, it's not off on its own case number for that particular incident. They're all in one big file.
Okay. Ms. Pinniger, we had hoped to have the Densis report by now and we don't have it.
Right.
And once they start, have they projected how long they could possibly provide the report to us?
3 to 4 weeks tops.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Pinniger and her report? If not, we'll move to unfinished business. And for me, the unfinished business was the Densis report, and we've covered that. Anything else that's unfinished? All right, under new business, you all received the calendar for 2021. And we have it for the entire year. I would think that many of these in the beginning of the year will be virtual based on the situation we're in for now. But you do have the calendar for 2021. Okay. All right. Any other new business?
Madam Chair, I do.
Okay.
I have a request for our executive director and staff. Could someone take some time and work on the Google Drive? Some files are named with the date first and then that it's board whatever. Some are named board materials and then the date. And because of the way Google sorts things, all the Januaries get put together, all the Februaries get put together. They're not in any kind of chronological order. And it would make that Google Drive more useful in preparing for meetings if it was organized in a way that is displayed better. So I have that request.
Sure. Happy to do that.
Okay, anything else? If not, we'll move to the case reviews for tonight. Are there any questions about any of the cases that you needed clarification from the investigators before we get started? Okay, we'll take them as they're listed here and recommended to us. We have no public hearings. We have one full investigation, and that is case 19720. Are there any questions about this case for full investigation? If not, may I have a motion to accept this case for full investigation? Ms. McClellan moves.
Motion.
Okay, and may I have a second?
I'll
Second.
I think Dr. Gershio seconded. Are there, it has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. We have 9 30-day extensions for full investigation. They are 04120, 5720, 12220, 13020, 13820, 15020, 17020, 19020, and 19920. May I have a motion to accept all 9 cases for full investigation?
So move.
Mr. Green moved and Sister Patrice seconded. It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. We have no unsustainable cases for tonight. We have 4 unfounded: 3720, 7220, 13620, 18220. May I have a motion to accept these 4 cases as unfounded?
So move.
Sister Patrice moves, second. Ms. McClellan seconded. It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. And we have 1 new suspension, which is case 11220. And we will authorize that suspension until no, is that date correct?
No, Madam
typo.
Chair, it is not.
Okay.
The case summary recommends suspension with no date
With
specified.
no date. That seemed reasonable. Okay, so it is suspended with no date, and that is case 11220. May I have a motion to suspend that case? Ms. McClellan moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Gershio seconded. All in
I
favor,
have a
aye.
question. I have a question.
Aye.
on the
Okay.
case.
Okay, there is a question, Mr. Waters.
Yes, I'm fine with suspending it. I would like to ask that a note be added into the summary as to why we received the case in July, but subpoenas weren't requested until October. I don't need a verbal answer because we are suspending for very good reason, but I'd like to have a note added into the summary about that.
Okay, so that's a process question that you want addressed. Okay, fine. It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay. Our next meeting is December 1st at 6 p.m. And we now will open it up for public comment. Stephanie, do we have anyone for public? No one for public comment?
I don't see anything in the chat or QA.
Okay, all right. At a minimum, Ms. Pittiger, can you stay so that we can talk to the students after the meeting is adjourned? Okay.
Sure.
And I don't think we need to copy, not copy, but record that portion of the meeting, Stephanie, because that's not an official part of the meeting. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, Trish and the Ozarks are saying happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we do want to wish everyone on the call, not the call, the Zoom, happy Thanksgiving tonight for sure. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Sister Patrice, Ms. McClellan seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Okay, anyone opposed? Anyone wants to stay around? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you attending tonight. And I think we had a very productive meeting tonight.
Very. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Green.
And Karen, you're here?
I'm here.
Good. Good.
Okay, so we're here to respond to any questions you might have for us.
You want to promote the students?
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the students and what they're doing. She's still there?
I don't know, but Stephanie, are you taking us off of YouTube?
That's what I'm doing now.
Because
It's a
we're
couple
still live
steps.
on YouTube.
I
Yeah.
know,
Oh, we
it's a
are?
couple
Okay.
steps to get you off. Oh, jeez. Give me a second. I'm sorry. It's a
Okay.
couple steps.
Okay.
I believe if we stop recording on Zoom, there's still lag and it continues on YouTube. So she does
Yeah.
have to terminate.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, she's gone. So that means YouTube, she's not connected. So YouTube isn't connected.
Yeah,
right?
where'd she go?
Yeah.
I don't know
did
where she went because we're still live on YouTube.
Oh, you can see oh, we sure are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you make yourself a co-host, Beth?